Welcome to the Gaming Coop, the best space to talk about surprise. Let's introduce today's players. Player 1. I never had much as a kid. Just loving parents, stability, and a mansion, and a thriving baked goods enterprise for me to inherit. Unless useless crap like that. It's Matt.
Bingo.
Player 2. What that pirate booty do? It's Walsh.
What does it do indeed? Answer nature's many questions.
Player 3 loves to surprise everyone with incredibly wholesome indie games. It's Chris. Not today. Player 4 dreamed a dream in time gone by when hope was high and life worth living. It's Kelsey.
Oh, that was beautiful. Chef's kiss, French kiss.
French kiss. Player 5 to live a life of power, you must have faith that what you believe is right, even if others tell you you're wrong. It's Gabe.
Hooray. Powerful.
And player 6, Elden Ring, more like Blythe Thirst Trap the game. It's shit! I forgot to say it's Anthony. I forgot to write that out. I was just like sitting there waiting, just like
You got so wrapped up in Thirst Trap that you just lost your mind.
Yeah, apparently. I don't even know. I have to see a picture of this Blythe.
Fucking disgusting, but furries be furries.
Yeah, right. No, I
Furries be furries.
I think everyone and everyone deserves to have people thirst after them, except if they're a horrible person. Which, granted, it's a monster, but like that's besides the point.
What's the name?
Absolutely to be thirsted after, though.
It's pronounced Blythe, but I believe it's BLIDD.
IDD.
AIDD, I think. Yeah.
AIDD. Oh yeah. I got it.
Oh yeah, this guy.
Yeah.
Big wolf daddy that looks like he went into the crawl space and picked up a bunch of cobwebs.
He went to the same store that Eminem did.
Giant dusty, right? Yes, giant dusty wolf daddy with a sword. Come on, who wouldn't be into that?
Sure. Yeah, I get that. Welcome everyone to this episode of The Coop. We're gonna talk surprises, because it's March and there's no correlation.
Great transition.
Sometimes we have like the month is associates with the theme. No, it's just we had a spot open and we filled it with surprises. And we have a lot of games that so surprises can range in terms of like it's a game that we didn't know was going to be good and ended up being fantastic, or something that happened in the game that you weren't expecting that left you with surprise. It could be a bad surprise in either one of those veins. Either way, that's what we're going to be talking about, and we're going to start with the surprise game of the year thus far. If you do not follow what's been going on in the game industry, one of the hot games of this year is a game called Hi-Fi Rush, which shadow dropped out of nowhere and immediately became many people's favorite game, and deservingly so. And Matt, you're going to talk about it.
Yeah, so Hi-Fi Rush is a really fucking great game. I was expecting it to be like, okay, this game's going to be pretty solid. It's a Bethesda game. I'm not a huge Bethesda fan overall. I've enjoyed some of their games, but I wouldn't call myself like, oh, I'm so into what Bethesda makes. So I was like a little bit just kind of fine from that angle. But then it is a rhythm beat 'em up game where all of your combos, all of your attacks are totally timed to the rhythm, to the beat of the song, which, as a musician, really piqued my interest. And for the most part, I'll talk about the gameplay a little bit. For the most part, the gameplay was fine. I wouldn't call any part of it anything that was super standout. You could get away with doing the same combos over and over. They added a bunch of cool different enemy types where some you had to parry at just the right times, block their attacks, difference between like short and longer attacks, which affected the beat of the specific combo, which I thought was really cool. And like there would be times where a rhythm would be played to you and then you have to replicate it perfectly. And I really liked those parts. But the real star of it, I think, was just the characters and the story were actually really well done and really fleshed out. Basically, you play as Chai, who is this ambitious but kind of aloof 20-something who goes to get a robotic augmentation from this company. Think of like every sci-fi fictional company you can think of. That's the company he's getting it from. But he accidentally gets fused with his fucking iPod, whatever, iPod, whatever.
iPod
MP3
knockoff
player.
thing.
Yeah, iPod knockoff. Like it gets infused inside of his like chest, so he sees the world, and the world moves to a specific beat, and it's the same beat all throughout, like the same tempo all throughout. And with his new, with that, and with his like kind of magnetic abilities, he's able to kind of beat shit up, and has a lot of power, a lot more power if you attack on the beat, and such, which I think is really really cool. The all of the bosses that you have to fight are all very, very well characterized. They all have their very own personality. You have this extremely buff, extremely hot-headed woman. You have this dude who part of his level is tricking him into blowing his budget. And there's a meter up at the top for like the amount of budget that he has left to try to like fuck with you with. And your goal is to get that meter down. I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want to get into like some spoilers. I'll have like a bit of a spoiler warning kind of towards the end, but even the people that like that you're with, you can call them into battle. They can help you with battle, or they can help with your platforming. The first one you meet is Peppermint. She like has a gun. That's her thing. She can shoot things. Then you meet a guy named what's his name? Macaron.
Yeah.
Big guy, but doesn't like to fight, but is really strong. So whenever you need to punch something, you bring him in. And then my current name is CNMN, or Cinnamon, who is Macaron's friend and robot, who like has like the robot face of just like two circles and a vertical rectangular mouth, but throughout the game will draw on his face with a Sharpie to express different emotions. And it's really funny. He is like the perfect comic relief character because he never gets annoying. He's just kind of there. He doesn't help with the battles like at all. But he is a joy. And the commentary with everyone is just great. And how have I got this long without fucking mentioning 808? I'm surprised I didn't make 808 my name. But 808 is a cat that you meet, a robot cat, Peppermint's cat. And she's kind of how you communicate with your companions. And like summon them in, and then she's like part of the like helping you like keep the beat throughout things. So very good game, a ton of charm. I really recommend it if you have any sort of interest in like rhythm games or anything of the like. I was surprised by it because I wasn't expecting it to be like as fun as it was. I don't think it's a game that you can necessarily sit down and play all in one go. In fact, I think I did like a level a day, and that was perfectly enough for me.
Yeah.
And Chris has kind of that experience, I think.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but like if you do like a level day, each level's like an hour long. That's like the perfect burst of it for me. What really surprised me though was the ending. And I'm going to put a spoiler label right here. I'll try to get this done within like 2 minutes or so.
Also,
it probably won't take that long.
I think there probably will be some people on call here.
So people on call who want to play Hi-Fi Rush, do not listen for the next 2 minutes.
Just hard mute for a second.
Yeah, hard mute yourself. Bye. Bye. Okay, cool. So at the very end, you like get captured and shit. And there's a moment where Chai like puts his hand up to the force field that they're around, and everything kind of slows down, and then the beat kind of starts to you have to do the button presses to the rhythm and everything, and it's just like this somber moment. Not really somber, but just this very calm moment among all the chaos that you finally do it. You finally break free, and then shit just gets even crazier from there. I was so surprised by that moment. It made me so hyped to finish the game. Really good final boss too. Nothing mind blowing, but just a perfect ending to this type of game. Loved the music too. There wasn't a single track that was necessarily a standout, but just in general, with it being a music game, with it being a rhythm game, you were able to just jive with it a lot.
I for one, Mr. Chai, like your pants.
I for one, Mr. Chai, like your pants. Yes,
that's my favorite. That's my favorite line during that.
Do they
Yes.
explain why they're all named the way that they are? Because I thought that was interesting.
No, I think it's just a fun name. They're all.
I
kinda
think
tea.
I think the theme is tea, so they
Yeah.
have chai and the peppermint.
Wait, but do we know why the theme is tea?
No, I think
No,
they
I
just
think
kind
it's
of
just what they decided.
a nice
Okay.
little choice.
Just interesting.
Yeah.
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 Let's first get Gabe and Anthony back. 'Cause I don't think I have any spoiler things I want to say. But yeah, for me, this was a shock for me. Because I saw this. I was watching the developer direct for Xbox, because it was a new thing that they're doing this year for their presentations. And this was a surprise game that was announced. And the day before, they were saying how Tango Gameworks is the developer of the game, which is underneath the Bethesda umbrella. And they were saying Tango Gameworks is working on the game that's completely different from all the horror games that they have made before. And it's called. They actually said the name Hi-Fi Rush, but this was a leak that came out. It was not something that was we didn't know any information about it. And it was and we're expected to find out information about it at some point in the future. Turned out the next day we found out what Hi-Fi Rush is, and immediately people were like, "Holy crap! The style of this game, the music of this game, the way this game just looks, everything." Everything immediately popped out. But I think for a lot of people, they're like, all right, but Tango Gameworks this is the first time they're making this type of game. Will it work? And I don't think I would be that rash to say it seems like it's the best game that Tango Gameworks ever made. Based off of at least the reaction was out of the launch. It's surprising. And then myself, I rhythm games were always something that I've wanted to get into. I just never felt like I was very good at them. And then Hi-Fi Rush, I was just like, all right, let's see. Maybe I'll be better at this than I expect. I put it on the easiest difficulty, granted.
Course,
so it's not necessarily I'm not maybe not be amazing, but I ended up having so much fun with it. And part of that is the fact that they even if you did play on the harder difficulties, I don't think they don't punish you for being not doing things in rhythm. You just get an extra boost or extra damage.
Yeah, you do more damage on rhythm.
Yeah, so
if you do the combos, of course, but it's not you don't die immediately.
Right? No.
Oh, you didn't press Y. Game over.
Yeah, no, nothing like that. It is very much purely hey, we want you to be immersed in the music and flow with the gameplay to the music, but it's not at all you need to be perfect. It is not a rhythm game in that vein, and I thought that was just really cool. Exploring the worlds was great. I just loved the interactions with the characters. I felt the story. It is not the next best story in games.
Oh,
but
no, not at all.
It is. So many of these characters are just so much fun, and you just kind of enjoy their presence.
Yeah,
and therefore
it's all in the characters.
Right? Yeah, no, it is completely to me. This game is so character driven. Cinnamon genuinely is one of my favorite video game characters. I absolutely enjoyed his presence and his bit, everything about it just makes me laugh and brings so much joy to me. like, he has so many great moments throughout the game that I don't want to get into, obviously for spoiler reasons. But he's such a star from this game to me. Yeah, it's colorful. It is so does not take itself too seriously. It's super fun. I had a blast, and it completely entered a part of me now where I'm like, oh, I could maybe try out other rhythm games. Hence why people have probably been seeing me tweet about Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix, which is my new obsession. I fucking love that game. But I'll actually be talking a little bit about that later in the episode. But I want to hear from anyone else about Hi-Fi Rush.
I know next to nothing. Only from the very minimal amount of gameplay that I've seen Matt do.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm gonna get around to it someday.
Yeah.
Who's the character that keeps making JoJo poses the whole time?
One of the bosses, green hair guy.
I forget who it is, but it's one of the early bosses, and he's the guy that actually his budget is being
That's the budget
actively drained. He is meant
Zanzo.
to be like he is meant to be like a straight out of JoJo reference essentially the entire time. It's very funny actually. Because he at one point he starts like walking away and doing like a funny pose during one of the scenes, and I'm just like, God, they really just made him the most stereotypical like bad guy in these kinds of games, and it's so funny though.
My favorite character in the whole game is Corsica, who I just linked there.
You and your red.
I won't say why.
Red.
She is red, yeah.
She has a great boss fight, and that's all I'm gonna say. Like it stands out from anything else in the game in terms of like the moments. I think a lot of people, and I can kind of agree with this. I'm not much of an action game person, but the parry mechanic in this game is pretty good, considering that it ties in with rhythm in that vein. It is a lot of fun once you learn how to parry. I'm like, again, that is that up until this game was a foreign concept to me. So that was a lot of fun. Once I learned to do that, it was a good time. But and also, to speak to the levels, like early on, I did burn out on this game just because I was streaming it, and so I was doing a lot of levels at once, and especially as someone who's not super action oriented, it was very easy for me to be like, I can't keep playing this like as much as I am every single day. Once I took a little bit of a break and then started spacing things out a little bit, I had so much more fun with it. It is definitely a game where you want to take your time with it. You want to kind of enjoy the experience. It is not something that you want to rush through. And I highly recommend it, especially if you have Game Pass, because it's free on there, minus the $10 a month fee. But you understand what we say.
If you already have Game Pass, then it's free.
Right, exactly. Anyone else have anything that they would like to add about Hi-Fi Rush?
Nothing, just looks cool.
Yeah, it's real cool. You know what else is real cool? Mystery games. And I loved my experience with Return of the Obra Dinn, but I'm very excited to hear what Walsh has to say about Return of the Obra Dinn. Walsh, what surprised you about that game?
What surprised me about the Return of the Obra Dinn was, at first I thought that it was going to be a mystery game, the main plot of the game being that you are an investigator looking into a ship that has returned from passage that had a crew of about 60 people and has returned, and everybody's either gone or missing. So you enter the ship, and one of the immediate supernatural aspects of it is you have a pocket watch that if you are able to find a dead body, you are able to freeze frame all the way to the point of where they died, and you are walking through a moment in time. And from there, you can even jump into other people's moments in time. Let's say there's a different dead body that's right there at the same moment. You can jump into that moment as well. And you continue down this rabbit hole, all while filling out this book that you have to figure out exactly you have a list of all the crewmates. You have a picture of all of the crewmates, or most of the crewmates. You have basically drawings of what everybody looks like, and you have to match up everybody, their name, who they look like, and what happened to them. And at first, you're hit out of the gate with one of the first death scenes you see is the captain being shot. And this is near the very end of the book. And you have to fill it in a non-sequential order. In fact, one of the chapters that is maybe 3/4 of the way through doesn't get filled in until the very end. As you're going through it and filling it out, at first I assumed that this was going to be a story. Oh, there's probably going to be some intrigue, some drama. And of course there is. You know, there's early on somebody gets crushed by some cargo. And that was another crew member's brother. And then the person who accidentally crushed the other guy gets betrayed by the brother when it's time for everybody to, jump ship. Then people start thinking about causing mutiny. And some people get killed that way. Or there is some international drama. There is framed murder that happens aboard as well. You have to realize who did what and who actually did what and who killed who. And that's all part of it too, until you're going through the game and there is now an immediate other supernatural entity that is completely different from the pocket watch that you were given to start. And at first, starting off, I thought this was going to be, fun, cool puzzle game. You're going to have a cool little pocket watch that'll let you go through time and figure out what happened to all these people, but now you have sea monsters, you have krakens coming up, and you are seeing a moment in time where somebody has been ripped apart by a tendril, or somebody's riding a giant crab and crushing people, or mermaids that have razor-sharp claws that are coming aboard and grabbing people and pulling them over, or lightning that's striking the top of the mast and somebody's falling over, shit like that. And you have to piece all of this together. And I think that was the biggest shocking thing to me. Because I started playing the game, and at first I was like, oh, this is going to be kind of boring, some intrigue, some, societal type of drama. But, it has a lot of good reviews. Let me keep going with it. And I started on it a bit later, a few months later. And the second that there started to be the appearances of all of these monsters, it immediately caught my interest again. That was probably the shocking thing that made me, oh, okay. Now there's something else going on, and there is just something new to a game that I thought was just going to be a fun puzzle game that is now going to be something otherworldly and something that no one would believe would have even happened. So that was the biggest shock for me in the game. Otherwise, it was just a totally fun game. The only caveat I would have is there's a couple of people's fates that the book doesn't let you put in until you've done everybody else's, because they technically disappear during that chapter that you don't get until you technically finish the book. But that was one thing that held me up for a while. But otherwise, it was fairly difficult, at least for me. But I think you can do it at home. And it was a lot of fun. The art is excellent, and I very much suggest it.
Yeah, I love this game. This is one of my favorite puzzle games I've played. This was the 100th game in that year. I played 100 games, and it was worth that moniker. As if that's at all important to anyone else outside of myself. But no, look, definitely the supernatural elements. I'm just completely someone that's not as into that, but even still, that it did add a layer of it made the story definitely stand out a lot more to me when going through. I think I just enjoyed the fact of trying to piece everything together. The main thing is that you are going through each of these scenes and you are trying to identify who the person is who died in that scene, and how they died. And you're basically each time you set up that's each time you go through a scene, you're tasked with kind of trying to recognize faces that you've seen in other scenes. And there's been times where you get a name for someone from a scene a few hours ago, where now all of a sudden, like, oh wait, no, I have a name for that person, so I could put that into my book. And then like a few scenes later, you see how that person perished, and then you could put that into your book. And then each time you complete, I believe it's like every 3 people that you have correctly identified, I think the game will let you know that you correctly identified them. So you won't know for sure if you have correctly done anything until you have done 3 correctly. I thought that was a really interesting mechanic as well, because it kind of kept you on your toes a little bit of like maybe I'm not entirely sure if I'm right about this character or not. I definitely think that there is definitely some obtuse things in the game. Like there is definitely a moment closer to the end of the game where there's some characters that I found that were like, it was super hard to identify them, and to the point where I just like kind of started randomly filling in names, and the game kind of ended up like completing itself after a while.
I definitely did had to do some, it's kind of like, it reminds me of a while ago. We talking about like different apps, and Kelsey brought up the one that was like the different logic puzzles where you have like different grids, and you have to do process of elimination sometimes for the ones that you don't know.
That's an excellent
sometimes
example.
what you end up doing. And then you realize that you have to really start paying attention about, like you have to look at the clothing that they're wearing, because certain members of the crew will wear certain types of clothing, or if you look at the tags on their bags next to their like sleeping quarters, things like that, because they only give you like a handful of names or named people throughout. Sometimes you can kind of base it on like, ooh, in the picture, or these 2 characters are often seen together, that might be the carpenter and the assistant carpenter or something like that. Like you can see them together a lot of the time. And then looking back, I was like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of fucking sense. They're together all the time. You know? The only caveat I had, there were some things that I did just brute force, but that I really just like, I don't know how else I would have guessed.
Yeah, no, I
think that's just me not being smart enough to figure it out. Like, I don't even feel like I was cheated. I felt like it was on me for not figuring it out.
Yeah, I felt the same way, because I had to do the same thing. It might be the game just again being a little bit more on the obtuse side, but I think like I even thought about like I forget if I did it at the time, but like the ones that I kind of guessed on and I ended up just getting correct because I was guessing. I wish I went back and looked at like there's like a wiki for this, so like I wish I went back and checked the wiki and see like, all right, how would I have figured out how I would have connected that person with that name or that situation. And like you do have to like be like, well, I have not seen this person since this chapter, so I'm guessing that they died somewhere between like this chapter and this chapter. Let me go back to one of those chapters and see maybe that there's a moment in time that like there's a person that's like not easily seen, that's like when like a supernatural presence shows up and maybe like they've been thrown overboard, maybe you just miss that person being thrown overboard. Like there's moments like that, like that you have to really keep out for. But it's so good, and it's so funny that we talked about this game after a month after Case of the Golden Idol, because that game it's very, based off of my understanding, was very inspired by this game, and both are like phenomenal. And the Lucas Pope who made Return of the Obra Dinn, like was one of the biggest vocal people to be like, hey, you should play the Case of the Golden Idol as well. Like it like both, like there's such a niche of like this type of mystery game of like putting the pieces together. I watched like looking at a scene and then putting the pieces together. There's something about that that's so satisfying and so much fun, and it helps when you have like a really interesting art style and a really interesting story to back it up. And I think both games are just so good in that sense. I think I love this game a little bit more though, because I love how I there's a weird like I like how it is like you have to kind of slowly put the pieces together over time, instead of it being like each individual scene is for its own individual things. Like it's like that early on for this game, but then over time you really have to start like revisiting chapters and understanding how everything, like how a person's journey went throughout the entire boat ride, because the whole thing is that like the Obra Dinn disappeared and then re-arrived one day with everyone dead on it or everyone gone, and you have to figure out what happened to what happened on the Obra Dinn. And so it's just that putting that like it's figuring out that journey in a non-linear way that's just it's so satisfying. I fucking love it. Anyone have anything that they would like to note or say about Return of the Obra Dinn?
It's on my list.
Did we
The
already
style
talk
looks
about
amazing?
Oh, okay. That was my question. Was going to be is what does the art style look like?
Yes.
Yeah, if you check the document, I just had trouble sharing it into the Discord, but if you go to the document and then scroll down to my stuff, you should, especially like
there it
looking at
is.
the monsters, I think that they're cool. They definitely, it takes inspiration from early computer games.
Yeah.
And you can see that how they utilize that. And of course, these are still images, but in those scenes, you are walking around the whole scene. Like it's frozen in time.
Yeah, so that's well. I had interrupted Anthony, so I just wanted to make sure we worked back to him.
Yeah.
Oh, I just was gonna say it's on my list, and like I've always kind of been like, oh, I'm gonna play this game at some point. But hearing Walsh talk about like the monsters made me a lot more intrigued in it.
Yeah.
It looks like your style based on the images.
Look at this game. I personally love it. I think that it is. I definitely could see where for some it's a little bit hard on the eyes just because it's trying to pull from like the really old school like computer graphics. And for in a 3D environment, I could see where that might not work well. But I personally love the choice, and I think I just thought it was really cool. Anyways, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, if I knew that there were monsters in it from the beginning, I may have even been more interested.
Mm-hmm.
It was that shock of like, oh shit, like there's something else going on.
Yeah.
And I thought this was just gonna be murder on the high seas. Oh, what's the mystery? Who is behind it? Oh, who's behind it? A fucking kraken.
Yeah,
but of
that's
course,
part
there's
of it.
a lot more to that. And
Yeah.
other shit going on.
Yeah. Don't worry, not everyone dies to a kraken. Otherwise, that would be a really easy mystery. All right, assign everyone's death to the kraken. Yeah, great game. It is so much fun. I definitely recommend it for those who enjoy those kind of games. And with that, we move forward to a type of game that I typically would not be into. A type of game that has been so hard for me to get into.
You know, for a second I forgot you were introducing your own game. I thought you were talking about somebody else's game for a second.
Yeah.
Damn, way to fucking put somebody else down.
No. This is me. This is it's a problem that I have had, which is getting into Zelda likes. And I've not. I think if I went back to Link's Awakening or Link to the Past, I might end up enjoying it more after playing Death's Door. I didn't mean to rhyme there, but
Wow, poetic.
yeah. I picked up this game because it was in that same year that I was playing a ton of shit, and I was super into. I want to play all the games that people are talking about, that people are super excited about, that it's gonna get be mentioned at award season, all that stuff. And Death's Door came to mind as a game that I always felt like looked so good artistically, and I was just like, I think I forget if I played the demo for it. I might have, but I found it to be a bit accessible for me, as someone who's not super into Zelda. I find is very much about managing a lot of different systems. Death's Door is not as much about that. Like, you do have to worry about your health, and there is I think that there is a gauge, if I remember correctly. Forgive me that I'm going to be talking about this game, even though it's been 2 years since I've played it, so I might misremember something. And there's a health gauge, and then there's another gauge that you use for I want to say it's for your weapon, but I'm not. I actually am not super I don't remember well. But anyways, this game was it was on my radar, and I decided to pick it up, and to tell you about it. It is a game from Ascent Nerve, who once made a game called Titan Souls. It is considered a sequel to Titan Souls. I don't know if it's based in the same universe or not, but it is. That's what the developers claimed it was. It is a 3D isometric action adventure game, and so you are this crow, this little crow who is a reaper, and basically the reaper's job, as you can probably guess, is to go and get people's souls that have basically who have basically outstayed their welcome, for lack of a better word. So the soul is usually of so most of the time these reapers are going after souls of these huge monsters that have basically outlived what they were supposed to. And you go and you fight your first monster, which is like, it was like this weird like smiling plant creature. And right out of the gate, like with the patterns of the boss and the way that the mechanics were working, like I immediately really liked how it felt. This game just feels really good to play, and I would attribute the major reason why I enjoyed it so much was the fact that you have unlimited dodge roll. And that was a big importance for me, because I was just like, I want to be able to keep on dodging and not have to worry about taking hits, and then take any opportunity I can to attack back. And that ended up being working out for me in this game and kept me sane. And so you attempt to get this soul, but then there's an old crow that all of a sudden intervenes and ends up taking the soul for himself. And the problem is that I'm trying to remember everything that happened in the game, but essentially you're then tasked with you in order to get the soul that's locked behind a large door, you have to then go and find 3 other monster souls to then put into to use to unlock the door that kind of like hid the soul that was taken from you. And so then you go into these different areas, like a manor in which there's this like witch that is like kind of like lurking over you, and you have to end up killing her, or you have to go to a swamp and you have like this frog king that you have to take down, and then you go to a mountainous snowy area where you have this yeti that she's outlived her welcome, and she's like the hardest boss of the game. And you there's all I think overall it's hard for me to remember everything in terms of the plot, but what I love so much about this game is how good this game looks from start to finish. Like it is just it has such a great style to it. It's actually a genuinely funny game despite its morbid premise. Like it's not that it doesn't take itself seriously. Like it does have a world that it wants to build, and want you to be immersed in, but there's also just genuine moments of that like make you laugh out loud, mainly because of the characters that you meet along the way, namely the bosses themselves. But like there's even like smaller characters. Like at one point you go into like this cafe and you greet someone that's like just standing there, and the guy that's like standing there behind the desk is like looks dead, but he has like a giant squid attached to him, and it turns out that it's just a squid that's controlling a human corpse, and that is just pretending to be human. And it's actually really, really funny. Like I have to see if I can find the images of it, but it just has like this sense of humor to it that I just really, really loved. And I just went through this game with like listening to the soundtrack, and I probably used a guide for it because, again, like as someone who's never really been into Zelda, like I just tend to not I don't really enjoy getting lost in these worlds. I tend to be very scared about going around into every single corner. So when I reached moments where I could just move in a linear fashion. I was it made the experience a lot. It made me appreciate it a lot more. I think what I like so much about this game is that while there is moments where you do get kind of lost, especially when you're trying to find your way to like the new areas where you have to find the new monsters. Even once you get there, after that, it does get a little bit more linear and more straightforward in terms of how you navigate it. I look at it as if like it is like a Zelda dungeon where you are like the manner is you're going from room to room and you're collecting like keys in order to unlock a door that ultimately leads to the witch that you have to fight or the like the I know like the swamp area had like there's like a initial section, and I think if I remember correctly you can unlock uh uh, a I think you unlock a door to there to I don't know. I feel like I did not do enough research for this to properly recount everything about this game. Um but I just why it's shocked me so much is that I had so much fun with it despite it being something that I typically haven't enjoyed. And it reminds me a lot of like playing Tunic recently too, of like that game. I think I liked, but I didn't love, and I think part of that was because it didn't have that like the comedic charm that I think Death's Door had that really made me want to stay immersed with it more for longer. And it's just because I again that's just the kind of player that I am, that I like having that like level of character and story to kind of keep me engaged in a world that I typically would not want to be in otherwise. Um, but it is something that I really recommend for those who do enjoy this type of game. I think that the boss fights are some of the most fun I've had in games like this, where I like the pot the witch is has uses like a pot in the game where she like jumps into the pot and then she jumps around the arena and you're just trying to dodge that. I just there's moments like that are super fun. Like there's the Frog King where like he actually like tilts the entire platform and you just need to learn how to dodge like certain projectiles that are being thrown your way. It's just super cool from start to finish. And it all culminates in like facing the Lord of Doors, who is the one who has been possessing all the souls and basically forcing the or like making it so that way the crows can't are like losing work. As far as if I remember the plot correctly, I might be pulling that out of my ass. But yeah, I super recommend it. I also shout out to Pothead, who is I believe a nephew of the witch, who kind of helps you along the way, and he's just a dude with a pot on his head as a head. And I just think that's hilarious, and this game just oozes a whole lot of charm, and I just enjoyed every minute of it. Great soundtrack too. Just one where like every turn they just have something really like a really great sound to kind of match the area that you're in, and a great like theme as well that it just has stayed in my head for many years as well. But yeah, I think I'm hoping that this is a game that could be the gateway drug to get into Zeldas at some point. But for now, I will just hold on to the memory of playing Death's Door and actually being kind of decent with it. I didn't really have there's no accessibility options in this game, which is bullshit. But also like it made me happy that I was able to beat it despite not having to use them. So yeah. Um, anyone? I know I really did not put in a whole lot of details, but does anyone have anything that they have seen from anything that they've looked into with Death's Door?
I watched you play this, and it looked like a fucking blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only saw a little bit of it, but like it looks amazing. And I know you were saying like wholesome, like oh this isn't a wholesome indie game, but
Yeah.
it felt like a lot of at least like even though it might have been like a little bit grimmer, I don't know, it still looked a bit wholesome even to me.
I guess that is a fair point. Like it is a very much like it has a very cute art style for a grim world. It kind of toes that line of like oh, like this is like a really you play as a cute little crow that has a sword, and you go around and you're knocking out enemies, and but then you take on like a giant fucking castle with legs essentially at one point, and then things are no longer wholesome. Then you have a laser beam up your ass, and you're like, okay, I need to figure out a way to dodge this and try to survive this. It's but that's the thing. Like again, like the best moments of this game are the boss fights, and I've always been like, despite being someone that is not like big on action, like I love a good boss fight. I love a good like here's like this big guy, and you have to just figure out a way to find a weakness or find a pattern to attack it, and memorize how they decide to attack you. And I I don't know, maybe I would be into Souls games in that sense, but but right now that Death's Door will be my Souls game, and I'm okay with that.
The crow you play as is super cute.
Yeah, I find I always just found I guess I just like little guys. I like playing as little guys in general in games, and that's that is definitely that is very true with this. Here I'm real quick before we move on to the mid seg. I wanted to send this image to the group. But that's the squid who's basically controlling the human. His name is Jefferson.
Amazing.
I just very much enjoy that a lot. And he gives you soup. He feeds you soup, which is maybe another reason why I enjoy this game. But yeah, there you go. That's why it's just such a big surprise. It's just like it's not my not a typical genre, but it worked for me. Now we will get to our mid seg, but before we do that, let me tell you about our sponsors. Hi everyone, it's Chris, and I'm back once again to tell you all about Anchor. Anchor by Spotify has actually been the tool of choice for Team Chaos Productions since the moment we decided to get into podcasting. And the biggest reason for this is it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your computer or even your phone. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, but also Apple Podcasts and many more. And best of all, Anchor is free. You do not need to worry about any features being locked out to you. You can get it all if you just download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Happy podcasting. I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt, and we're the Virtual Ball Boys.
During the NFL season, we will talk about the games and headlines on everyone's minds. Plus, we give our predictions for the weeks ahead.
In the offseason, we run our own fictional football league with tabletop gameplay mechanics.
Like that, listen to the Virtual Ball Boys on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, and we will see you on the show.
Good night and good ball.
We are back. It is time for our mid-segment. Walsh, what do you got up your sleeve today?
All right, so I thought as a group. So you know what? Actually, I'm gonna share a little bit behind the scenes. Originally,
Sure.
my initial thought was I was gonna have us do like a trivia game, and every time that you guys got a question wrong, I was gonna pretend to physically shock myself. I have
Wow.
a better mid segment for us.
That doesn't sound like a sensory overload at all.
Yeah. So I have scoured the internet for one of the most shocking and scariest video game stories I have ever heard. Warning: super ubu, super duper scary.
Okay.
So scary. I've
Are
given
we
each
about-
of us. Don't look yet.
Okay.
I've given each of us a segment of the story to read that we will read completely cold, having not read it before, except for myself, because I had to fucking look into it. So I'm gonna
Sure.
start us off. I want you guys to be as dramatic as possible, until we get to the big climactic, shocking ending.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're all together. On this?
I would like to just note that Anthony's last here, and I think that Anthony is the perfect person to be last to close this out.
I think so too. It just kind of, I figured I'd put myself first to kind of set the mood, and then I put the rest of it in today's show order.
Sure.
So that's where we started, but otherwise, I also cut it wherever I could find some form of punctuation to end one of the many run-on sentences.
Yeah.
So there's your other warning.
Okay, there's run-on sentences.
All right.
Okay.
Is everyone ready?
Yes.
Wait, I'm
Sure.
sorry. Just as clarity, we are reading this however we want.
However you want, but
Okay.
I'm going to try to set a scary mood. So however dramatic you want to be, whether dramatic and scary or whatever you want to do, you could do a silly voice if you want. I'm not a cop. Whatever you want to do. All right, is everyone ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
I gotta get close to the mic here. Hold on.
Okay.
It all started today. My friend gave me this game through the mail since he lives far away. I opened. There was a note. Dear Zach, I need you to play this game. It's been haunting me for a month. Only way is to get me out. Please help. Of course, those who you can click with the passages as we continue on so we know when each one ends.
I call my friend Jamie. He was the one that sent me the mail about the Nota game, and I called him before I opened the big box. When he answered, he said, "You're next in the list." I knew it was probably my friend Jamie pranking me, but he called me answer the phone again. This time it wasn't the voice I called first time. This time it was actually Jamie. He said, "Dude, help me. I'm really scared."
I said, "Tell me, what is it? The game console. Hurry, play it. It will destroy this Mons." After he stopped speaking, knife went stab. He sounded like somebody died before he ended the call. He said nothing. Later that night, like around 12 p.m., the box wasn't open, so I started playing the Wii. Then I figured out it was glitching a little. I tried my best to say in my head, "It's okay."
Then I was playing Super Mario Brothers 2. After that, I recognized for a minute Mario's eyes were red, but I was probably images in my brain. In World 1, there was lava dead animals. Then I turned off the Wii. Then I went to open the box my friend Jamie gave me. And when it was Xbox 360, but there was a part of the Xbox was wrong. It was modded, saying in a note, "Hope you enjoy your death."
Okay, I was a little freaky. I was scared there was another note saying, "Hi, any game you play counts as 1 to 5 haunting point. Would you like to play?" I said, "No!" Now I decide to head for the night. Next morning, I wake up. I recognize my Xbox my friend gave me was all set up. I was scared. I asked my mom. She said, "No, ask my brother. No, ask my dad." No. So my friend gave me a Call of Duty 3 play it. There was a thing saying you have to earn 5 haunting points. Okay. I ignore for a minute. The Call of Duty wasn't working. Then I try Sonic. I hear terror laughs. 5 more. I knew I had 10. Now turn off Xbox. Then my Xbox message where someone said, "Why stop playing?" Smile.
Then I got a voice message with a large screaming voice said, turn around, and I saw my friend Jamie dead, cover in blood. I started crying, then I said, "Stop this!" Then I played 2 more games, said 5,555, "You're dead." And then this happening right now. Goodbye, everybody. Nobody can save me. Best of luck. June 28th, 2013. From Jack. P.S. Hope my life would be more sad like those.
This was literally just Sonic.exe.
Ooh, the guys,
This is
what a
Sonic.exe.
shocking ending.
There.
Wait, does anybody remember? I'm sorry, go ahead, Go Cubs.
Walsh decides to make fun of a 12-year-old writing creepypasta.
Wow.
No,
Wait.
we decide to make fun of a 12.
It's on. This is on all of us.
But does
Yeah.
anybody remember?
this story also, by the way, this story was called Video Game Powers.
Nice.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It read to me like when you just hit the text predictor on your phone.
That's what I was thinking. This was too.
That's what it felt like.
I thought he was setting us up, and it was just gonna be text predictor again.
Do you guys remember the viral video where it was like dramatic reading of a breakup note or something?
I think
Do
I
you
remember.
guys know what this is? And it's like you don't. Do you remember? Does anybody?
I
Okay.
vaguely remember it.
I'm gonna find it. We're not gonna do it on air. We'll do it
Sure,
after. But
sure.
quite literally, Go Cubs sounded exactly like the dramatic reading. The tone of voice and like the monotone, but then like the random dramatic, like it just was. I was instantly transported back to like middle school. I was like, holy
Oh
shit.
man.
If anything, I feel like a lot of our choices were gimme chicken tendy like that.
I kind of is also that voice.
Wow. That was a journey. Can we credit the author? Does the author was there a username
Dude,
attached to this?
I have no idea. I am on trollpasta.mirahees.org under categories bad creepy pastas.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so
Cool.
the username is lost in time. Fair
It's
enough.
probably just uploaded anonymously.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Well,
and this was all posted as one giant paragraph. At least that's how it's archived here. So
that would make sense.
Broke it up.
Sure. Sure.
I give that story 7 haunting points out of 10.
Pretty high.
Average.
Pretty high. All right. Well, that was a spooky story. I hope you're not too scared. But don't worry. We're gonna move on to something that has to do with at least as far as my understanding is like cute acorns and shit. It's idle acorns, and Kelsey is gonna tell us about that.
All right. So yes. Sorry, I was just in the middle of shifting over to all of my little pages. So Idle Acorns is actually a game that I did not discover. Anthony discovered it. And he had been being really obnoxious about showing me it and telling me about it. Where like every time, like so full disclosure, I'm also really obnoxious. Like we don't already know that, but I bombard Anthony with things that I find on Instagram. I send them to him and then I make him watch them with me again. And I make him oftentimes put it on the TV in the living room, like AirPlay it. And then we sit through and we go through all of the things I've sent him on Instagram. In like a regular week span, he could have like 75 messages from me from Instagram. Like, no joke. So I literally torture him. But when we'd get to the end of him sitting through all the Instagram things, he'd be like, oh, let me show you my cute little acorn tree game on the TV. And I'd be like, no. And he'd be like, but I just sat through and watched. And I'd be like, no. I don't want to look at it. And he would keep trying to show me. So eventually I started actually listening to what he was saying and he's told me about it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try it. So the game is Idle Acorns. It came out just in November, the end of November of 2022. So it's relatively new. It was developed by Aleros.io LLC. That's ALEROS. It is $1.99 on the App Store. Now, typically I do not always go for apps or games like this, especially if I don't really know, haven't really played them. I also don't typically play idle games. And like, I guess the best way to describe an idle game is it just kind of plays itself and it's kind of collectathon-y and you just kind of are like accruing things or spending things, but there's an element to which you are constantly building up things in the game so that your development and your collection just keeps getting exponentially greater as you progress in the game and you unlock other things. So it's $1.99, right? So I was like, I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily pay for this, but Anthony said it was good. I can always get a refund. And then Anthony was like, you pay the $1.99. There is quite literally no way to spend money, actual money in the game. It is completely ad-free and completely microtransaction free. And I was like, sign me the fuck up, because I fall victim to that all the time. I'm a sucker. And I will do all the little microtransaction-y shit. And I will immediately pay dollars to not have to look at an ad, even if I don't know if I'm going to play the game. But the fact that it was ad-free and microtransaction-free to me is huge in a market where that's how everybody makes their money, and that everybody preys on people, on gamers for that. It's huge, even in your not mobile games. Also, the age rating for this game is 4. So as long as you're 4 years old, you can play this game. But essentially,
download it right now.
It's so good because you essentially log in and you're at a forest and you're prompted to shake a tree for acorns. And then as you shake the tree, you collect acorns. Eventually, you can unlock little things and pay for little things. You have to sell the acorns to earn money. So Benny is the name of the squirrel in the game who runs his little acorn shop, and he will let you sell him acorns, and you pay, he lets you sell him acorns, and he gives you monies. And then the monies are used to unlock other things. So you can like water your trees or get more sunlight or unlock more scavengers, who are little critters that will shake the tree for you when the game is not open. And then you can buy food so that the scavengers have more to eat. So then you get more scavengers, more acorns while you're not there, etc., etc. I don't want to like spoil anything necessarily that you unlock, because it's actually quite wholesome and quite cute to play the game at face value and unlock the things that you have. But beyond the shaky tree aspect, things that you immediately have in the game when you open it, there's occasionally 2 little critters may show up in the forest, one being what I'm assuming, I guess, is a crow or a raven. But when he shows up, if you tap on him quickly enough, you get to do a little dig in a little dig site, and you get a little extra bonus of some sort, like either money or acorns. And then occasionally a rabbit will show up, and the rabbit is somebody who brings you to do a little forest scavenger race. And if you tap correctly on the screen and you get first place or second place, you get a little treat for racing with the bunnies. It is so wholesome and so chill. If you close out of the game, it will collect your acorns for you for a period of time up to a certain percentage of the amount that you would have collected if you had the game open. There is no like auto tapping, except I did find an exploit that I've used because I could, and I desperately needed to. And I caught Anthony had been playing the game for weeks before I got it, and I've completely caught up to him through my exploit. Yeah. And I justify this in a way, and I will justify this in a few minutes. So other than that mechanic, something else that you have pretty much from the beginning is the ocean, which in the picture that is on the document, you'll see that there's like three kind of images of a phone. The one is the forest on the left, and the middle is Benny and his shop and things that you can unlock or buy. There's also diamonds as another currency in the game that unlocks in a little bit. But then you have the ocean, and in the ocean, you cast a line, and then colored fish come on the screen, and you have to tap them quick enough to catch them. Then you can cook them and then sell them for money or diamonds or currency or whatever. And then there's other things, like all of a sudden, rarely a like whale will show up in the ocean, and if you don't act quick enough, you can't tap him and collect him, and he becomes something important later that you need. And so it's just like, it's very cute, it's very wholesome, it's very much something that you can just like, hey, I'm a little bored and I want to pick something up, but I don't really feel like talking to anybody or wanting to engage in social media. I just want something that's cute and wholesome and that I can play with and that I can pick up and put down at my leisure with no real no huge obligations or time sink. You can play it as little or as much as you want. I will tell you that screen time on the iPhone was like, your screen time went up 75% last week. And I was like, I don't know why that happened. And it was definitely because of Idle Acorns and the exploit that I found. But something that I think is even further wholesome about this game, and I posted the website to the doc, or Christopher did it for me because I was in the middle of panic eating my dinner because I forgot that we were filming. There's several little mini games in there, but for everybody who plays the game and sinks hours and time into the game, the developers actually donate to an organization that plants forests in order to help against deforestation and to help the planet. And the whole game itself actually does have we're trying to save the planet. We're trying to be more conscious about our surroundings and what the forests and the other ecosystems mean to us. I only found this portion of it, that it actually had this other side, this donation, this philanthropic side of it, only after playing the game for a little bit. And the last I checked, he's very transparent. I'm saying he, I actually don't know who they are, but so they actually transparently post the receipts for their tree donations. So let's see. In the spring of 21, in their initial development and use, they had planted a bunch of trees. They're up to planting 60 trees through people playing the game. They have not done an update since February of last year. I'm unsure why. But they're very transparent about what they're doing there. And then I actually also went and donated, and I planted like 20 trees the other day through what they do. So and I paid like just short of $20. It's like $1 a tree. And you can pick what area of the world you want to, donate to in order to plant the tree. It's a very reputable organization. So just cute, wholesome fun. I was surprised. My whole point of picking this for the surprise aspect of the coop was I was completely shocked at how fast it sucked me in and how much I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, for being something that is relatively simple on the surface, but actually the mechanics of it are so deep and complicated. It's so cool to play and how intricate everything is. And I was just so surprised at how wholesome it is without having to be anything more than $1.99 on the shop. Literally cute enough and wholesome enough for children, babies, to play. And was very surprised that they actually were being philanthropic and turning the money around and making sure that actual forests are being built based off of the gameplay. So
it looked like it looks like the developer is Zachary Spears.
Cheers to Zachary.
Yeah, based off of the a Twitter search. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's the what I'm understanding of it right now.
Cool.
Yeah,
It's a simulation. It's a casual simulation game, essentially, and
Yeah.
an idle game foremost.
Well, anyone else want to speak on Idle Acorns? Anthony, I know you said, I know Kelsey mentioned that you were the first to discover this.
Yeah, I fucking love idle games on my phone. Like, if you give me a game that I can, like, obsessively check 8 times a day and just see that it's done work in the background, I am thrilled. I am so chuffed about that. Like, that is the entire genre of phone games that I play.
And
It's
that's
like
why I ignored him for a while, because he comes to me all the time with these little stupid clicky shits. And I look at him and I'm like, I'm not going to fucking play that. I don't play idle games. Go away.
Monkey brain, like when number go up.
Right,
yeah, exactly. It's like Vampire Survivors came out for the phone, and I played it for like less than a minute. I'm like, yeah, this is cool, but I don't really care. But like, if you give me a little game where like squirrels shake a tree for you and they just collect acorns while you're just not looking at the game, I'm so there. Like, it just activates a little neuron in my brain that I really like. So, yeah, I think that what Idle Acorns does well and better than other games is it really has a lot of like little doors that it opens up as you play the game. Like, you'll unlock something and you'll be like, oh, this must be it. And then it's like, no, there's more. And that will literally unfold over like the course of 2 weeks as you just get more and more out of this game. And it is so cute. It's so fascinating too. And there are little hats that you can put on the main squirrel. So,
all right, man. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I guess especially if you've ever loved any games that are like Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, like this very much like bare bones, wholesome, you're given a directive, you complete the directive, and then you can just move on type of thing. That's where it's at. And coming from somebody who's not normally a big mobile game person.
Yeah.
And where my attention span is that of a gnat. Like it's not doing much. But anyway, I justify my exploiting the game in that I exploited it to just plant more trees.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it looks like the I have not seen anything on any updates from like the person that at least claims to say that they were the ones that made it. Like since like they left Twitter in November, which I totally respect. Given what Twitter has turned into, so we'll see. Well, hopefully the trees are still being planted.
That's the thing. I'm not like totally. And then like I just said, oh, it came out in this past November. That's not true. There's like different information that I'm finding online now. So like this other one was posted 2 years ago by somebody whose username is Zakator, who might just be this Zach person.
Yeah.
He posted 2 years ago on Reddit that his game was live. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. There's mixed info, but definitely receipts posted on the trees actually being planted. And you know what? Even if they weren't being planted, the game is fucking cute.
Yeah.
So like,
at
some point, trees are being planted. I don't know what Zach's lifestyle is. Maybe he's off doing wonderful things and enjoying himself, and he doesn't have time to plant trees anymore. He planted 60. I planted my own. Play with Benny the squirrel, who's a bastard, by the way. You'll see what I mean if you play the game. But so good, just very good, very highly recommended. I also had a special, what's it called? Not honorary. When I have like another game I want to mention.
Honorary mention.
Yes,
Honorable.
Oh, it is
honorable mention.
Honorable mention.
Honorable mention.
For surprise, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, Horizon whatever the fuck it's called.
Forbidden West.
Horizon Forbidden West should have been forbidden from anything. Surprised me in the worst ways. To the point where I refused to finish it, and then Chris told me, I can actually tell you the exact build I was doing in The Sims when we were on call. Exactly what I was building, exactly what I was doing, when Chris essentially told me the rest of the game, where my jaw actually hit my desk. I was so shocked and appalled at what they did with that game. I know I am in the minority. I don't care. Fuck them. I'm angry. And you should have never put the one guy in a diaper. It's upsetting.
Varl.
Yeah. Varl should have kept the beard, lost the diaper. Anyway, that's my surprise honorable mention.
Yeah, I'll Acorns. I'll check it out. I think it looks cute. I'm into cute experiences like that. Finch has been the main. We haven't actually talked about Finch on this little podcast here.
Oh, you're right.
We
will
at some point, yeah. But that Finch has been my main mobile app thing, but I recently got done doing dailies for A Little to the Left, and so maybe I might have a little room in the schedule for another game, another daily game.
Oh yeah.
So I definitely want to check it out. And yeah, Horizon Forbidden West. I played it, so you don't have to.
That's pretty much how I feel. I'm deeply disappointed for something that rocked my world so hard for the first game that I was so in love with. Was so disappointed in the second. So that's my little. I was so surprised at how fucking let down I was.
Yeah, it was
surprise.
I think the complete utter fucking silence of discourse about that game. You're still hearing about Elden Ring. You're still hearing about God of War. You're still hearing about all these other games that came out, and nobody's talking about Horizon anymore.
Yeah. Yep. Even though many people were out in full force being like, this is better than the first game. And just that people went by the way. So, granted, that was kind of the reaction to Horizon Zero Dawn because it came out 4 days before Breath of the Wild. But hey, who's counting? What a rough franchise that is across the board, unfortunately. There you go. That is Idle Acorns / Horizon Forbidden West. Thank you, Kelsey. We will now move to games that have not released in the last year. In fact, it has been many decades. Not many decades.
30 years.
Oh, 30 years. Okay, so not many decades since this last game came out.
All right, don't rub in how many decades ago 30 years is. Some of us are a little sensitive and waiting for our AARP membership.
30 years ago was 1970.
Yeah.
Yes, that is how I feel as well.
Yes, I can occur. I
No,
can
I swear
occur.
to God.
I can concur. I meant to say concur. All right, whatever. Gabe, you're done talking about Sonic CD.
CD's nuts.
All right.
How long have you been waiting for that?
I don't fucking. I was gonna try to put it in the intro and it didn't work. So whatever.
Okay, so Sonic City. My first Sonic City, first of all, came out in 1993. Late in September in Japan and November in the North American release. The game centralizes about Sonic going to a remote island and seeing a natural phenomenon known as the coming of Little Planet. What Little Planet is it's a little, like as the name says, it's a little planet that comes visit by, I think it's called Moon Lake, every year. And it's only during the specific time frame, otherwise it disappears. However, Dr. Eggman, or Dr. Robotnik, whatever the fuck you want to call him, he learns of Little Planet and decides to chain it to the ground and use it for his own devious purposes. And Sonic, as he arrives to Little Planet, finds out that it is indeed chained to the ground and is being mechanized by Dr. Robotnik, and he goes up the chain and into the planet to stop him. So the core gameplay is standard Sonic fare. You just go straight right, do some platforming, and then you reach a signpost signaling the end of the stage. At first, I wrote the game off as, it's decent. It's an okay Sonic game. And this was back in 2015, 2016, because I was avidly doing art at the time when I was in high school. And I had an iPad, so I was like, I'll try it, because it's a Sonic game that's on the iPad. Why not? So I did. I wrote it off, and I kind of dropped it after that. However, many years later, I picked it back up again. I forget on which system. I believe it was... I forget which system it was, but I digress. I picked it up again, and I instantly fell in love. So the deal with this game is, on Little Planet, there are signposts. There are tiny signposts that let you travel to the past or the future. And once you run into one of these signposts, you have to keep running at full speed for 3 seconds, uninterrupted, and then you can either travel to the past or the future. And one of the biggest game mechanics is being able to make a good or bad future. With the way you can get a good future is if you go to the past and destroy a robot generator that is trying to mechanize the planet to make a bad future. Go to the past, destroy it, and then you instantly get a good future. And you can travel to the good future at your own volition. Like, there's signposts to go to and from, but being able to maintain your speed for 3 whole seconds can be kind of challenging, especially with the game's kind of inconsistent level design. And I figured I'd go into that. A lot of people don't like this game. I understand why, because the level design is kind of lacking in certain areas, and it reuses a lot of themes from Sonic 1, and that's understandable. Like, it's technically, in the timeline, is the second game. Sonic 2 is not the second game. It takes place after Sonic CD. So it is the second game, and it was very derivative of the first one. But I don't care. I love this game, and as you can see from the pictures I put in chat, I put 3 stages. Palm Tree Panic, present, colorful, lush landscape. Past, slightly more grown over, more primitive, prehistoric looking. And then after that, the bad future, all the grass is dead, all the geometric shapes in the ground has turned gray, the water is polluted, everything is awful. But the good future, more vibrant nature, more colors are more saturated. It's good. Then Tidal Tempest is the token water stage of the Sonic games. Present, it's just a volcanic centerpiece, whereas like in the background there are volcanoes erupting and all that. Past, more craggy, more cave-like in its design. Bad future, everything's gone to shit. All the limited architecture is broken. and the water has been turned to sludge. However, the good future, everything is pristine, everything is clean, and the water has become purified. And then after that, my personal favorite stage of the game is Stardust Speedway. The present, you're running along streets in the air formed out of brass instruments and saxophone pieces. I think it's a very lively stage, especially with the searchlights that blare into the sky. It's just a very pleasant aesthetic to me. The past, everything is overgrown in vines, and then on the additional picture, there's architecture hinting that Little Planet has had denizens of the past, and like there's golden statues of griffins and stuff like that, and it's all reflected beautifully on the water surface. Bad future, the sky is blood red, smog is everywhere, the searchlights are blaring constantly. And in the good future, it's a starry night sky in the background near the bottom of the screen. It's like a big old carnival. And those are just some of the examples of the stages throughout the game. Oh, I forgot. I didn't post it. Oh well. And then there's Quartz Quadrant, where like everything is it's a mine factory where you're mining. Dr. Robotnik is mining crystals,
I
and
thought you were going to say cryptocurrency.
no, mining crystals. Crypto didn't exist back then.
I know.
But yeah, it's just factory mining crystals. Present is standard, just it's a mine. Past, nothing is there. It's just a primitive cave in the past. Bad future, literally everything has gone to shit. all the crystals are gone. Everything is just barren earth. And then the good future, everything is gold and blue, and the crystals are shining against the pale light that the cave is reflecting off of from the sky. And that goes into another thing. I love the visuals of the game. I think the visuals are one of the strongest aspects of the game. I think, yeah, a lot of the environment is geometric shapes and simple color, but the colors are very saturated in a way that is very pleasing to my eye. Plus, with the derivative nature of some of the stages, the new stage concepts that have been reused in the future of the Sonic series, I think, are some of the strongest strongest stage design in the entire series. And then another thing on top of that, Metal Sonic was introduced, and I talked about Metal Sonic in a previous Coop episode, so I'm not just gonna keep it brief. One of the most iconic Sonic villains was introduced in this game, and I fucking love him. The special stages in this game are a bit different from Sonic 1, I guess, where it's not a half pipe, where it's just an auto runner where you're along a flat landscape and you're able to jump and basically steer right or left and destroy UFOs that are in the sky. And it's same, but the level design is different for each special stage until Special Stage 6. Special Stage 6 is an eyesore and is seizure-inducing, which I'm surprised no one has talked about up to this point. Excuse me, I burped. But I love the special stages design. I think it's a very impressive look for how it used to look in 1993. And it got updated in the HD release to have a more smooth frame rate. But as a whole, Sonic CD surprised me because, I don't know, I just ended up enjoying it a lot more in my second run through. It just surprised me how good of a game I thought it was because of its strong themes and make a good future for us. Like, obviously we can't travel to the past, but we have the ability to make a good future for everyone if we just put in the right work. And I thought that was a pretty cool message. And I just love the game as a whole. It's become one of my comfort games. So if I'm honest, like if I'm feeling down or whatever, I can just run through the whole game in like 40 minutes.
I do find it fun where like we just hop on call and I'm just like, hey Gabe, what you doing? And it's a lot of the time it's like, I'm playing Sonic CD. It's just like, yeah, all right, cool. I love that journey for you.
Thank you. But that's about it of what I have to say.
Sonic has so much style, man.
I forgot the music.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Japanese soundtrack better. American soundtrack significantly worse. Just trust me on that.
Yeah. No, Sonic is just, it is a joy. It's a feast for the eyes in that sense. I enjoy how much work that especially the 2D games do, in how they design their worlds and how much fun it is to kind of like be in those worlds most of the time. Yeah, just another one of those the classic Sonic stuff, which I feel like it's been almost 6 years now. You would think that at some point soon that we get another dip into 2D Sonic again, beyond the Origins launch, like something brand new. It would be fun to see.
It would.
But yeah, it is just oozes that style.
I love the alternate stage versions. Like, I really, really love when people put attention into like variants on the same concept. Very cool.
Your intro was supposedly a quote from the game, but I cannot verify that.
Can you read the quote again, just really quick?
I gotcha. It is to live a life of power. You must have faith that what you believe is right, even if others tell you you're wrong. That sounds like an Eggman quote.
No, it might be from one of the intro slash outro songs. Like in the Japanese version, they have lyrics that actually like mean something.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't tell from what, again, this was done in panic because I forgot what day it was. So I like found it and I was like, oh, that's really nice. And usually I'm an asshole. So like, let's change it up. And then could not figure out if it was like legitimately from the game. And I was like, that's nice enough anyway. So we're going to go with it. But supposedly the effort was that it was supposed to be from the game.
I don't remember because I honestly just skipped the songs most of the time.
This probably wasn't. That's fine. Probably actually from like a Melissa Etheridge song or something, and Google says.
Through my window.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out a way to transition here. It's hard to connect Sonic CD to Elden Ring, so you know what? We're just gonna dive right in to Elden Ring here. And Anthony, this for the first time, I felt like we were doing good in not having brought up Elden Ring at all up until this point.
Was that a goal? I didn't realize that was the thing that we were trying to avoid.
I thought it was funny. Like last year that we had a whole Game of the Year conversation. We're probably like one of like the few people out there that we're not talking about Elden Ring in that episode in our Game of the Year stuff. So I just thought it was funny. I was like, all right, how long will it take for one of us to pick up Elden Ring and like it? It turns out it's Anthony that is here to tell us about Elden Ring.
Yeah, so like I played Elden Ring when it came out, and when I played it, I was like, this is genuinely an incredible game. Like, I can tell. But every like 10 to 15 seconds, the game would stutter. And that's not okay when you're playing a Dark Souls game. And my computer is fairly beefy, right? Like, it's not like top of the line by any means, but I can really play most games on high settings at stable high frame rates. And so like playing a game that just constantly delayed was making me like really angry with it, not enjoying the game on a technical level, so I dropped it. And I was like, oh, I have my Steam Deck. Valve fixed Elden Ring's problems for Linux. So let me just mod a character. I'll mod them on PC so that I can play it on Steam Deck. And while I was on PC, I'm like, wait a minute. It's playing fine now. So yeah, long story short, I found that somehow in the last year they completely fixed the stuttering issue. And I have been able to play the game at a super smooth, stable frame rate on high settings. And I've been having just an incredible time with it. And so I've played Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. I've played Demon Souls. I've played Bloodborne. I've played Sekiro. I have completed some of these. I have abandoned others. Really depends on whether or not I like the game. All of that is to say that this game itself is something that I'm kind of familiar with the core concept, but I think that what they've done by translating it to an open world kind of takes it above and beyond anything that they've ever done before. I know that's a really groundbreaking take with all of the Elden Ring discourse over the past year. I mean, I'm sure that nobody is even aware of this game,
Sure.
considering people still won't shut the fuck up about it, but here I am, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
You're trapped in here with me. So
That's one way to phrase a podcast.
yeah. So
It's your first ever hostage situation on a podcast. But...
yeah. Here's my PayPal account, okay? But what I really appreciate about this game is that you're just kind of like dropped into this world, right? Like the story at the beginning is very minimal. You really can't tell what the fuck is happening. You just know that all of a sudden you're here now. The first character that you meet taunts you and calls you maidenless, which is a bold start to a game. And you're just kind of like, what do I do? And you just wander around, and you're going to kill some birds. You're going to fight abominations of nature that live on the beach. You're going to die in a dark cave. And you're going to go on all these fun little adventures. And you're going to see fucked up things, and you're going to commit war crimes, and you're going to get cool loot. And there is, like, literally not a single spot in the game where something really interesting is happening. And I don't give a shit about the main story. I don't even remember if I'm on the right path of the main story or if I'm just like wandering in whatever direction I want to. But I am having so much fun with the game. I came across a broken down cart with 4 jellyfish around it. And as soon as I approached, the jellyfish turned red and started to attack me. These giant, like, 4 feet long jellyfish that are, like, bigger than a fucking pizza. I don't know. And they just attack you. And once you're done killing all of them, you loot the broken down carriage and you find a jellyfish shield. And it's literally just like a jellyfish that you strap to your arm and you can use it as a shield. It is the coolest goddamn thing. And then I walked like 50 feet away from that and I found a headless giant, a ghost of a headless giant that was glowing gold in the middle of the woods. And we had a boss fight. I actually didn't get anything from it, but he kept respawning, so I kept killing him just for the fun of it. And then I found this Royal Academy where they teach, like, gemstone sorceries. And then there was another cave that led to a shortcut, and there were all these illusory walls. And I went into this one dungeon, and behind, like, a series of 5 hidden walls. In other words, it looks like a dungeon wall, but if you attack it, it phases out and you can go through it. After going through several of those, I fought a snail that summoned this like 7-foot tall knight with a giant weapon. And after you killed the knight, you get like 5 seconds to attack the snail. And then it would disappear and summon the knight again, and you had to do it all over again. And like the 3rd time, I was like, fuck it. I took out my spear and just like went ham on this snail that was just minding its own business. And anyway, that was cool. And then I went outside and literally the 10 hours I have on the save file is just surprise after surprise after surprise. It's like, hey, if you go here, there so happens to be like a master sorcerer in the basement who will teach you all the spells you want to know. And then if you go over here, you're going to meet a like 8-foot tall living jar. And then over on the coast over here, there's a combat tournament where you fight one of the main bosses in the game. And it's just on and on and on with all this really interesting shit. I don't know how they did it, but literally no open world game is ever going to feel the same after this point. And I wanted to share a little comic strip with you because it perfectly encapsulates what Elden Ring is to me. And here's like a narration of it for people listening to the podcast. This guy is like out in the woods picking mushrooms, and then he sees somebody in a pink tracksuit that was stabbed to death, and he's just laying there in the middle of the woods. And the next panel, the guy picking mushrooms is wearing that pink tracksuit and like using the knife that the guy was stabbed with to pick new mushrooms. And that's exactly what Elden Ring is. Because you'll like murder somebody and you'll get their armor and you'll be like, oh shit, that's kind of cool. And then you'll wear it and then you'll just keep wearing it until you find somebody else's armor and some other really cool weapon that's just in the middle of nowhere. And the best part is, absolute best part, this is not randomly generated. Everything that happens in the game was handpicked and placed there on purpose. You and everyone else are only going to have different experiences because you went off in different directions and decided to do things in different orders. But if you went to the same spot, you would experience the same exact thing. And I just think that is so amazing because so many games depend on random generation to like make things easier on the dev team. Like random events make things interesting, but the way that this world was crafted, so much work went into creating the perfect crafted, curated surprises for you to unwrap every minute of gameplay. And I just think it is so incredible. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Oh, also, I titled myself in our Discord channel, The Loathsome Dung Eater. I haven't met him yet, but he's my favorite character so far because the intro introduces you to all these different people and they're like, oh yeah, that's Barry, he killed God. Here's this woman, she lays with people as they die. And here's this guy who eats shit and everyone hates him. And that's enough. They just move on from that point immediately. So shout out to the Loathsome Dung Eater.
I just love I haven't met him yet, but he's my favorite character.
I love so like there's just so much like first of all, I'm not moving past the fact that you basically to try to give us an example of how big a jellyfish is. You said a pizza as a size comparison. I thought that was fantastic. And then I love that you set this comic as like you're trying to explain to us why Elden Ring just works so effectively. It's the most random mushroom picking comic. Like
Anthony, in what world is that a pizza?
I said it's bigger than a pizza. Check the timestamp. Craig G-Arc. Help me out.
It might
that's
be
massive.
Bigger, yeah, it might definitely bigger than a pizza. He is right about that.
He's bigger than a Pizza Hut, not bigger than a pizza.
I think everything that has been stated about Elden Ring has been stated, and I think you mentioned like one of the biggest reasons why you wanted to talk about it in this episode was like the fact that it was basically a surprise at every turn. That the surprises that kind of were like. The game is not the Elden Ring is like was not a surprise as a game just because it was so highly anticipated. It was such gonna be a big game. It ended up probably exceeding expectations, but was very popular. But it's the fact that the game is just filled with surprises and like you don't realize what's going to be turning at every like moment. And yeah, I respect it, man. I respect From Software's ability to craft a world that is fun to explore, that's fun to live in, that's fun to play. I'm definitely not a fan of the accessibility aspect of it, but that conversation has also been that that dead horse has been beaten for sure. Like
That dead horse has been beaten.
yeah, like it is. That has been a conversation point. Like it's just something that is just one thing about Souls games that you have to kind of unfortunately accept about how they design games, and it's why I choose not to play them. But I understand why everyone else who would like to play these games and likes exploring them will. It's a gorgeous game. It is so cool to look at the random things that happen in the game. It's a fun game to watch. Like for me, I have enjoyed seeing other people explore the world and seeing what shenanigans they do end up in. And yeah, like that's really my connection to Elden Ring. But I respect it for what it does, and for the love that a lot of people have for it.
The way that it has surprises, or at least it seems to have surprises every 2 seconds, it's just the way that you want to keep people interested, and the fact too that you can keep on having surprises, but also not take yourself too seriously. I think just adds on to the fun of it.
Right.
That kind of style, that's how I want to DM Dungeons and Dragons. That's how I want to keep people guessing. I want to keep people, shocked and surprised, and just bigger and weirder things come out, and then they can just have fun with it. Not that it has to be an endless grind of facing a million gritty NPCs and enemies, but no, let's fight a giant crab. Let's fight a bunch of giant jellyfish, and it being the silliest rewards. And I think that that's really funny.
Yep.
I just have like 2 things to say very quickly. That's just kidding. 3 things to say very quickly. The first thing being, I just have to say that like Anthony's delivery on these things is so on point. Like he could have told us about the game however he wanted to, but he makes it so entertaining and just telling us about it. Especially with the incorrect size comparisons. So then the second thing that I wanted to say was the point at which you were like, I don't know, I don't even know if I'm remembering this correctly since we've had a bunch of conversation, but there's a man in the basement who can teach you the magic you want to know. That's quite literally something somebody would say with a large white van. Like you did not make that sound. You made that sound so creepy in the way that you delivered it, like so very much what you would lure a small child in with, which is terrible. And then the other thing, what?
No, I'm just like, wow, that's really an intense comparison, but continue.
It was.
I
That's
know.
completely what it sounded like. He was
I
like,
know,
ooh, there's a man with the basement and he's a magician. He's going to teach you the magic, or a wizard or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds terrible. And then the other thing was in the very beginning, you were like, you said something along the lines of like, I don't know if I'm even on the right path, but I'm going in a direction and I'm having fun. And I was like, that is the most wholesome thing. Like, that just sounds like how everybody should want to experience their life in and of itself. In that, like, I don't know if what I'm doing is the right thing, but we're all going in different directions. And you know what? I'm enjoying my direction. And that's just how it's going to be. So I appreciate that if that's truly the core of the game, that you can just do whatever you want, go wherever you want, and unlock all these fun little mysteries and avoid the pedophilic magician in the basement, then that's fantastic. I'm very happy about that.
I will say that it just shows how different at least I am, where I'm like, yeah, I like the idea of like walking in a direction and like just like walking in random directions, but I also don't want to walk in a random direction and have a fucking lobster chop my head off. Thanks. No, thank you. I don't like that. Not into that. But again, that's many people are into that, especially the getting their head chopped off by a lobster part. So
Yeah, and actually, I've just been sharing all these different screenshots of my time with the game, but I want to specifically highlight one because this is a little story I forgot to bring up, but I did want to. There's this lake, and in the middle of the lake is this sort of like hill and a tower. And if you go up there, the door is sealed with magic, but there's this little gargoyle that presents a scripture saying solve the puzzle and hunt the 3 wise beasts. So it turns out the hill is filled with ghosts, but there are ghost turtles around the map, and if you kill them, you can get in. So I found the first 2 turtles, and it took me a while, but I found the 3rd turtle just like hanging out on a tree, like a beetle. And so I threw a spell at it, and it just fell from the tree. Like it died on impact, and then fell off the tree and landed on its back. And while it was falling, a little message popped up saying the seal on the rise opened. And I'm like, there's an inexplicable emotion about being able to proceed because you killed a ghost turtle that was clinging to a tree. Anyway, I got good loot out of it, so.
Oh my god.
The little goblin that presents you with the letter that says solve the riddle is when I'm beyond a reasonable amount of hunger and you're trying to figure out how to help me and where we're going to go to eat. And I'm
Yeah.
like, solve the puzzle. Oh, I'm being a goblin in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a fascinating game. They're coming out with another game this year, which is fucking stupid. I can't
Armored
believe it.
Core!
Yeah.
Armored Core!
I'm hoping it's another team and not a Pokemon situation.
Armored Core has been a fantastic game series. I am so excited to see it back. I'm so good at mech games.
That's a discussion for another pod.
Yeah, no, I'm intrigued by Armored Core. We'll see how I feel about it when it comes. All right, two things before we end off the podcast. I wanted to do a quick PSA. I'm hoping to get this up prior to the date itself, but the 3DS and Wii U eShops are closing down because Nintendo sucks ass. And so there's a bunch of digital games that will be lost forever because of them shutting down the shop. And for a lot of developers, that means that they cannot port because of the way that those games had to be developed. Those games are basically lost forever because they can't really port it to another system easily. So that fucking sucks. So I would just highly encourage that if you have a game out there that you have had an eye on, to maybe see if you have the funds for it, of course, to maybe see if you could get pay for it, because it's unfortunate. I've been basically buying a bunch of 3DS games over the last month, and most of them Nintendo. I was not really doing a lot of indie games, but I ended up discovering some of my favorite games. Like Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix is now one of my favorite games of all time. I like fucking enjoyed the shit out of that game, and I highly recommend it for people who like rhythm games or WarioWare games because it is a fucking amazing experience. But that game's gonna be gone forever, essentially, in a couple of weeks. Granted, I understand that emulation also exists, and you probably should emulate because Nintendo sucks again, and they're not going to sell it to you, so might as well pirate it at this point.
It sucks that the PlayStation Store and the PS3 and PSP have outlasted the.
Yeah, like that's insane. I mean, they even were scheduling to shut those things down, and then people had outcry about it, and they hey, guess what? PlayStation, they actually listened to the consumer. Nintendo doesn't give a shit. Granted, they never really have in that sense of like they're just going to do their thing, and ultimately people will keep on buying their games. But yeah, that's just general PSA, and it's mainly another reason for me to keep on bringing up Rhythm Heaven because I'm that is my currently hyperfixation. I cannot stop playing that game. The other thing I wanted to mention is that in the next episode, I don't know if we'll stick to this. It depends on how easy it is for people to come up with a game for this topic, but I had written down favorite bad game, and basically what I mean by that is if you look at like Metacritic or OpenCritic or whatever, like generally speaking, a game that has been poorly received, but you yourself think is a grand old time that you love dearly, that it may even be one of your favorite games of all time. That is the topic for the next Coop. we'll see if we stick with that. If it changes, it changes. But that was the initial plan for April. And yeah, with that, I think we were going to go and close this one out. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next month. And until then, game on. The Gaming Coop is brought to you by Team Chaos Productions. Follow us on Twitter at The Gaming Coop, or follow our other work at Team Chaos Pods.